Legend of Total War here, and today we're doing another Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires campaign review, this time covering Kostaltyn. So this campaign starts at Erengrad, and you start at war with the Ungol Kindred. These guys here are essentially a punching bag, but they're really a distraction for your true enemy, which is Azazel. Now, the more you stuff around dealing with Azazel, the more difficult it's going to be. Azazel doesn't start off particularly strong, and he's a bit distracted to begin with. You can deal with your early game enemy quicker than what Azazel is likely going to deal with his. And if you manage to follow these steps, you can deal with Azazel very easily. So if you take Kostaltyn, attach the Patriarch here, take out this army, and then capture Castle Alexandrinov. With Kostaltyn's army, recruit 2 more units. Then at Erengrad, switch your commandment to relief columns, recruit a new army, recruit 2 units, because this commandment won't take into effect until next turn. Now on turn 2, you'll notice that Kostaltyn can't reach Joyshink, which is why we recruited this army here, because that one can reach. Kostaltyn moves within reinforcement range, and this army launches the attack on Joyshink, and you deal with these guys by turn 2. Really important that you do that, because you want to be able to switch the commandment of this province on turn 2 over to relief columns, allowing you to continue recruiting. And then in addition to that, recruit another army at Erengrad, and this time recruit 4 units, making use of that commandment. Now at this point here, you can switch the commandment back to whatever you want, because you're not going to need to do any more further recruiting from here. Then on turn 3, you take both of these armies and move them to about here. Put Kostaltyn's army into ambush stance so that Azazel doesn't see it, and have the other army recruit 4 units because you switched the commandment there. This army over here force marches right behind Kostaltyn, giving you a sizable force there. And then on the next turn, on turn 4, you launch the attack on the Tower of Crack. Fairly easy to deal with that because they won't have a restored garrison and only a small force in there. And Azazel will actually be halfway to the Bay of Blades. And on turn 5, Azazel will actually turn back around and force march to here to try to deal with you, at which point, if you've done all of these steps correctly and you haven't gotten your army completely obliterated, taking out Azazel army in this battle here is actually very easy. So eliminating Azazel by turn 5 means that you are ready to deal with Throt the Unclean, because by this point, Throt will have taken out the Druzhina Enclave and will start declaring war on someone else. And because you're the player, he'll most likely declare war on you. You'll already have a sizable force ready to deal with him, and then you just continue playing the campaign, and it'll evolve differently for each individual person based on various random factors. But yeah, Kostaltyn's campaign has the potential of being very difficult due to the powerful enemies that are nearby, but following aggressive steps to take out your enemies early will allow you to have a more comfortable campaign in the long run. Now, Kostaltyn himself is an okay legendary lord. Looking at what he offers, providing frenzy for the entire army is definitely useful. Wound recovery time -2, cool. So if he gets wounded in battle, you don't have to take too long before he comes back. He's the only patriarch kind of character that's actually able to get all 3 of the battle hymns at the same time, so that's quite useful. He's very strong on a warbear, and he's just overall a very strong melee fighter. He's got a few decent global bonuses in there as well, which is definitely quite helpful, also helping to increase local recruitment capacity. Now the overall benefit of playing Kostaltyn's faction is really coming down to the Patriarchs. Them immediately getting 20% ward save just by attaching into an army is a big deal. You sort of are incentivized to create Patriarch doom stacks, and that's really what you're going to get the most amount of benefit of playing as Kostaltyn's faction, at least compared to playing as Katarin's faction. Now, looking at some other things in here, like Diplomatic Relations -40 with the Ice Court is completely useless because that you can't actually declare war on the Ice Court. And as you continue to gain support, you will sort of mitigate that relation penalty anyway, and you will more than likely have the same enemies after a while. So I would often end up as allies, regardless of which one I'm playing. You actually end up being friends. The support mechanic here, it's sort of led to believe it's a race, but it's not really a race, because even if your opponent finishes the race first, it doesn't matter, because the other person gets confederated when you finish. The other faction can't confederate you. The only thing they can do is like maybe confederate some of the other Kislev factions, which isn't going to hurt you when you just confederate their gains anyway. So this system here is a little bit silly, but it benefits the player greatly, so I'm not going to complain too much about that. Typically speaking, doing supporter actions is completely useless. There is no benefit to harming your opponent, since their gains are not your loss. So just don't bother with it. Just go through and get these supporters as you see fit. You don't need to rush it. It will just eventually happen. So overall, I'd say that Kostaltyn's campaign is fairly enjoyable. I think it's a lot better on Immortal Empire's campaign than it was in the Realm of Chaos campaign. It's got some powerful enemies nearby, but you've also got a decent amount of friends into the south. So the southern Kislevite faction, so not Boris, have a lot of options in their campaign in terms of how they want to play things out diplomatically, and has a variety of powerful enemies to deal with throughout their campaign. So it's quite fun. I actually really enjoy playing as Kislev. A lot of people say that their economy is trashy, but I don't feel like it is that way. But I do quite enjoy it. So in terms of optimal difficulty, if you want a really challenging campaign, obviously legendary difficulty is the way to go. But I'd say that most people, for fun, probably would want to stick to about hard difficulty. I think that's where the sweet spot is, because yeah, you may not want to go hardcore, get rid of Azazel that way, because you will really bankrupt yourself sort of doing that. But it's entirely up to you. Taking out Azazel will make your campaign a lot easier. Anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Kostaltyn's campaign. Let me know which legendary lord you'd like me to cover next. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time. Later, guys.